Okay. Okay. Today's tutorial. Today is 9th of April, 7 o'clock all over Eastern side. The daylight saving is gone, so everybody is 7 o'clock now. So New South Wales people would have a sigh of relief because they don't have to keep awake till late. Although 9 o'clock is not really late. But Michael is here and Kathleen is here. Hi Kathleen, how are you doing today? You can just type if you want. Okay, probably she's busy. Anyway, so we were discussing about the assessment, the case study or the written assessment, in which abstract, like I said, is basically a gist of the paper. Abstract basically means that the main thing is the heading. 99% of people would read the heading and then decide if they want to read the paper or not, right? So, or the title, I would say, not the heading, the title. If the title is engaging or it's something they are interested in, they will read that. When I get a journal, I usually go through the index, you know, the table of contents, and in like 1 minute, I know exactly what papers are published in that particular issue. And if a title is something which is of my interest, I will read that. And the first thing I read in that article would be the abstract. Abstract basically gives you a gist of what that paper is about and gives the reader an interest if they want to read the rest of the paper or not. So if your, hi Kathleen, and if your paper is not, if your abstract is not interesting enough, although the paper might be fantastic and it might be full of new information and very well written and whatnot, but if the abstract is not interesting, people may not want to read the rest of the paper. So abstract is really, really very important. And it's a requirement. There are some papers on how to write an abstract. It is further down. What I'll do is that I will make that available because that we wanted to discuss in our written communication. But I think it is good that we should bring that up in it is in week 11, in fact, how to write a good abstract. So what I'll do is that I will bring this up and put it in the week 5 so that you can then have an idea how to write a good abstract. So I will just move it up. Just bear with me just a moment. Privacy laws, social media, sonographers, social media, who's misbehaving? Okay. Right. So if you would go to your Moodle site, it will be at the bottom of week 5, how to write a good abstract. And that would, it's although it is not related to this week's readings, but since you are writing your assessment item and everything, it might be a good idea to go through this short, it's not a big paper. In fact, it's a website from Editage, which is a good resource for a lot of writing stuff. It has manuscript writing, how you select the journal, how to submit to a journal, manuscript tracking, peer review. All the process of publishing is in this article. A very good article if you are writing for publication. And although you may think that we are just doing this assessment item to get a pass mark and forget about it, this is creativity. Everything you write, even if you write email to a friend or something where you are discussing something, or you post on Twitter or Instagram or Snapchat or whatever, or you're commenting on should Adani be allowed to have the coal mine or not, and you put in your one word comment on that, bullshit. That is creativity. That is a generation of intellectual property, right? And you should understand that whatever you produce is of interest to somebody somewhere in the world. So whenever you write something for university or as a assessment item, think of it as something you may want other people to read as well, not just the marker of that unit, right? Maybe your classmates, you can circulate your sort of paper among your among this group and tell them, look, this is what I've written, give me comments. At no point have I restricted you people to share the ideas. In fact, there is a forum there, discussion forum, which is exactly for the same thing, that you should exchange ideas and bounce ideas among each other. I think that these units are group or individuals. You don't behave as a group. Everybody is on their own, independently doing their work and not really interacting with the rest of the class. And my sort of idea is going forward, probably in 2020, next year, term one, when I will do this unit again, if I'm still around, is to have some group task in which you people come out as a group and see if that would create some communication issues and give you some more practice in how to communicate in groups. But anyway, at the moment it's not really an issue. But then the thing is that when you have written something of value, where you have your ideas and you have your creativity on there, you should then think of publishing it. And there are lots of journals who would like to publish your work. When I wrote my first paper, and I was 100% sure that nobody in the world would ever publish it. After 50th, I was sort of like asked by journals. Even now, I get emails like every week, a couple of emails where they invite me to share my research or share my thoughts or something for some journals. Most of those journals are dubious kind of journals. None of the good journals invite me ever. But even then, there are people there who would want to. So the thing is that the more you write, the more portfolio you develop. And it is not just your CV that has got lots and lots of papers or research or whatnot, but the general public, which means scientific public, become interested in you build your sort of status from there. When I used to go to RSNA, the Radiological Society of North America, after about 7 or 8 years of going there and presenting, I was stopped and say, was sort of, you are Amir. Yeah, I read your, article on this thing, or I read your paper on this thing, or last year I saw your presentation, and what are you working now? And then, so people start to get to know you. Even people who you have never met, or you never sort of think of doing that. And the best example of that is why I am here in Australia. That was exactly due to my publication. I was at RSNA. One of the radiologists from Australia met me there, and he said, "Oh yeah, you have worked on this, and we are doing this thing, and then why don't you come over and work with us?" And ultimately, after a few years or whatnot, I ended up here. So you get known through your publications. Even if you write something which you may think that is not really anything interesting or whatnot. So what I'm trying to say is that when you are writing your paper, assessment item, make it sound interesting, and then send it off to publication. And if you want to sort of send it, I'm always here to help you through the process, because assessment item is very different from the publication, how to write a paper, but the skeleton is the same, only the meat is on top of it is different. So I would definitely suggest that you write something and get the assessment done in this one, and then don't forget it. Keep it, refine it, send it for publication. There are so many journals on healthcare, on communication, on administration, health administration, who would be keen on knowing these kind of problems of communication between student and supervisor, between patients and sonographers, and whatnot. And when I was developing this unit, the biggest problem I had was to find good reading material. And if you look at the reading material that I have put in, let's say for week 5, most of it is from early 2000s. The first one is 2010, 2013, 2007. Now, 2007 means that it was before Facebook and Twitter and whatnot, because all of these came in, I think, 2009, 10, or something like that. So AIR guidelines, and they have unfortunately not been revised since 2007. They are sort of like revised in a way that they are refined, but not something new has come out. There is I haven't come across any publication out there that outlines sonographers and Facebook, for example, or sonographers on Twitter, or Twitter groups, or Instagram groups, or video logging, or all these kind of things which have come up in the last 4 or 5 years. Social media digital revolution is so fast and so rapid that, every year there's a new platform, there's a new fad that comes up. These days, slowly, all the written material is going away, and the video material is coming on. In like 15 years back or 20 years back, there was a huge trend of blogging with a B for Betty, which was people were bloggers, and they made hundreds of thousands of dollars blogging. They were food bloggers, they were sonography bloggers as well, and paramedic bloggers, and all those people who express that. Now the blogging has been almost being replaced by vlogging, which start with a V for video. So it's video logging everywhere. There is a whole new generation of social media that has come up. But the basic idea of social media and the interactions have kind of remained the same, and which is how does our behavior, our conduct, and our communication skills apply in situations where we are not face to face or there is no human interaction. There is a two-ended human-machine interface. When I vlog or when I blog or when I create a post on Twitter or on Instagram or on Facebook, I am addressing a machine. I am writing it on a machine. I'm not targeting a particular person, right? Like the live conversation we have between people, where we are face to face, there's eye contact, there is a lot of body language comes in, the way you face the patients. But when you're sitting on a computer with social media, you are interacting with a machine. So the whole concept of interaction completely changes. You think that you are hiding behind something, and you say things which you would not ordinarily say to the face of a person. Lots and lots and lots of times there have been interactions on social media which are, I wouldn't say inappropriate, but I would say a lot more frank than they would be in real life. I mean, you guys would be on Facebook and maybe on other social media as well. How do you feel about the social media? Michael?
I've got Facebook and Instagram. I'm not the kind of person that posts things. There's certainly a lot of things I dislike about social media.
Mm-hmm.
But it is a good way of keeping up to date with school information for my boys and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of bad things I don't like about social media.
What is the worst thing you think about social media, which basically is standoffish and you don't interact with it?
I think you only get to see a certain aspect of somebody's life, so all the good things. So I don't think it's a true reflection of somebody's life. I certainly don't mind following families' holiday snaps and things like that. But some people post every little thing in their life, and it's quite annoying.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so basically it's information overload and possibly irrelevant information overload. And that is a huge, huge topic of the problems we are facing right now. When I grew up, it will tell you my age, there was only one channel on television which came on at, I think, 5 o'clock, and at 11 o'clock it closed down with national anthem and the flag, and you go to bed. Now you have, if you have Foxtel and if you have YouTube and if you have something, it's a 24-hour entertainment going on, and average person sits there, and if they have half an hour of watching television, for example, that half an hour is spent surfing. Click, click, click. You are 5 minutes here, you get bored, because there is this thing of information overload, and our filters are then become more and more and more sensitive, and we keep on we cannot assimilate anything out of all that, and it's basically just the information you get which is not really of any use or any interest to you. And that is a big problem. And you rightly said, Michael, that most of the stuff that comes on the social media is relevant but not interesting enough, or not how would I say, it's not honed in or targeted. So you have a lot of noise, and you have to swim through all that noise to get to the information you have. And that started with the internet, basically. That initially in the 80s and early 90s, when the internet boomed, if you would, and the Google came in, and if you do a Google search for a specific thing that you want, you get 100 articles which are not exactly what you want, and probably out of those, maybe 1 or 2 articles would be what you exactly want, or what you exactly want to find. So there is a lot of noise which goes on behind the information you get. And that is putting off a lot of people who are who grew up in the age of non-social media, and social media has come into their life. But looking at it from a perspective of 18 or 19-year-old, most of our students at undergrad level, they grew up in social media. So for them, they look at social media in a completely different way. They enjoy the noise. They're not looking for information. They're enjoying the noise. That, you see a cat video there, and a dog video there, and a horse video there, and then you are looking at somebody landing on the moon, and somebody like TikTok, they are doing all sorts of crazy things, and they enjoy that. It's a form of noise, has become a form of entertainment. That is why the younger generation is so good at trivia now, because they have loads of junk information, which is not good for anything, but there is loads of information there. Like you said about social media, there's a saying, a joke, in fact, that no woman is so ugly as she looks on her driver license picture, and not so pretty as she looks on her Facebook picture. So, there is this aspect of people we see, which is not giving you the whole information about people and whatnot. What about you, Kathleen? How do you see social media?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
I interact with it very, very sparingly.
Okay.
I'm too old to really bother with it.
Come on, you're never too old. Well, this is social media as well. I mean, we are having a discussion and whatnot.
So is this social, is it?
Well, for 3 people, social media. Yeah. But what holds you back from it?
Oh, because of the noise, I think.
Yeah.
I'm just, I don't like being spoon-fed information.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll find my own news, and the rest of it is just is noise.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That's probably a common theme. And most people who our brains are circuited in a very different way. You get your circuits developed in your early childhood. That's why early childhood education is so important. The concepts you make, the mathematics and the language and the social contexts and the reaction to social sort of environment is built in the first 7 to 8 years of our life. And that's a lot of research out there about that. The brain circuits develop in that particular way. When obviously you get something new come out, it is very difficult for the circuits to break and new circuits to form. The most common example of that is a car. People, our generation, who started with stick drive and then we had an indicator and roll the windows down, most of us, when we are driving modern cars with lots of gadgetry and meters and this and that, we still drive the way we used to drive. Okay, maybe we are not driving stick anymore, we are driving automatic. But when I am driving an automatic car down the highway and there's suddenly an emergency or something suddenly comes in front of me, my first reaction goes, my foot slams down beside the brake to find the clutch, and my hand is trying to grab the gear, because that are the reflexes my brain got tuned to. Now my car, it just knows something is coming, and it slams on the brake without me having to put my foot on the brake. And it parks automatically and blah, blah, blah. And I never use it. I have not used my auto parking ever. Just maybe once to demonstrate it and say, oh, it automatically parks. But then that's it. I always manually park and parallel park and whatnot. Never trust that. Not that the technology is bad, but the brain is not wired in that sense. Same as with social media as well, that we are not really wired in that sense. So when we are communicating on the social media, our generation, or in fact anybody who's maybe in their 30s onwards, find that challenging to make your place in the social environment that we are in now. And that is where when we are professionals, the problems come in. What we can do, what we cannot do on social media, what are rights and what are the obligations. And there is lots and lots of papers written after the social media explosion, mostly in the early 20th, 2000 and late 90s, after the Facebook and everything came in, that how would it affect our professionalism? Medical profession by nature is very orthodox and very, there's a big inertia to change. That is why, if a new drug comes up and then you hear about experiments go on in some lab somewhere, it takes a decade for it to hit the commercial shelves. A new antibiotic or an Alzheimer's disease medicine, you go on the telly and they are touting that, Australian scientists in Brisbane or Queensland University have come up with this wonderful new medicine that can cure Alzheimer's disease. Where is it? How can I buy it? No, it will take you 10 years for it to come to the shelf. We are, as a profession, very slow moving. And the reason for that is obviously because we are responsible for the lives of patients. So we cannot do things in an irrational way. We have to have good evidence about things before we would do that. So similarly, taking or absorbing social media in our professional life has become a lot of challenge as well. Every place or every association basically has got these rules and regulations about use of social media, internet, or internet technology, the information technology, and all that kind of stuff. What you can say, what you cannot say. There are bodies who are responsible for our conduct, like APRA. We are not under APRA, so we are not really concerned with that. ASAR and ASA have got guidelines, but most of the guidelines are local. Wherever you're working would have a local policy regarding the use of social media. Michael and Kathleen, both of you work in a job somewhere, right? Have you read the social media, how would I say, guidelines from your company or office or organization or whatever? No.
Yes, I have. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay, fantastic. Kathleen, you're probably an exception. Most people haven't. I have not. I mean, I've been with CQU for 3.5 years now. The first time I read the CQU social media policy when I was writing for this unit. If I wasn't involved with unit, I wouldn't have. Most people don't.
I think it's a requirement when you start working for CQU.
Yeah, but induction doesn't have this specific document that you have to sign a document which is appropriate use of internet or information technology, IT, and that is basically what this paper, which I have posted here on the site, this CQU social media policy is a general sort of a document. It is not specific for social media as such. I have not read the word Facebook on it, or Instagram on it, or Snapchat on it, or vlogging on it, or blogging on it. It is a general sort of thing that, okay, what are your responsibility? Compliance monitoring and review, reporting, record management, definitions, lead custodian, blah, blah, blah. What is social media moderators? So it does not basically give you an exact parameters. This is a general document. And it was sort of published in 2014, which was 5 years ago. And in 5 years, there are so many new things that have come up. Snapchat was not there 5 years ago. Instagram was not there 5 years ago. I think Twitter was there. I'm not really very sure. Facebook definitely was. But it generally gives you a general idea that comments not typically related to particular article being commented upon, profane language or content of that promotes, fosters, or perpetuates discrimination. So these are just the general outlines, but nobody has sat down and taught anybody how to what you can say and what you cannot say on a social media platform. And every year, every term, in fact, we have problems of students posting stuff on their Facebook page, on their personal Facebook page, and then where do we stand? You know, they can slander the university, they can slander the lecturer, and somebody was not happy or was failed in an assessment item, they will go back and on their Facebook page, they would take names and then just blast. Now, what are the rules and what are the laws regulating that? Is very, very, very loose. You'd be unlucky that you would be prosecuted for that and actually punished, or for the same crime or even a higher crime, there may not be any repercussions at all on you. So it's a very sort of very complex issue. When you're communicating on the social media, there are a few things that you must keep in mind. One thing is, and I always give that an example, is that you cannot misrepresent, which basically means that you cannot represent the university, or you cannot represent yourself in the official capacity from the university. For example, on your Facebook page, you cannot make a discussion group called CQ University Sonography. because that name would give an impression that is an official site, and whatever is discussed on that is with the implicit consent of the university. You can have something like sonography in Australia, or sonography in Mackay, or sonography in Northern Queensland, or ultrasound technologists, or sonography in public hospitals, which is not specific for a certain thing. You can post your whatever grunt you have on that without taking names. There is a university in Australia which mistreats its sonography students. There is a university, or there is a program that does that, or that is whatever. But you cannot take names and do that, because then you are opening up yourself to be accused of slander, right? Even if whatever you're writing is absolutely truth, and that lecturer is a really an extremely inappropriate person, and then he's been unfair, and then blah blah blah. You cannot do that on a forum that would indicate that it may be representing a certain organization. Same way, if you're with IMED, or you're with PRP imaging, or you're with any of the private firms, or you're working with Royal Brisbane and Women's Hospital, or at Mackay Base Hospital, or whatever, you cannot make a page with that name being used. So that is the first thing, that copyright, it is not really a copyright thing, but basically it's when you go to court, or when it goes south, you are accused of impersonating something you are not, and you can then not argue that this is, you cannot argue against that. So that is the first fundamental thing. The second thing is, from when using media which is official from a site, you cannot use that platform to launch an agenda. What I mean by that is that, let's say if you are on a CQ University official Facebook page, right? You cannot go there and say, okay, I'm against animal slaughter, or I'm against Adani, or I'm against Turnbull, or I'm against Malcolm, or whoever. Malcolm Turnbull is the same person, Scott Morrison, or whatever it is. That particular, you have to contain your opinion, whether a positive or a negative one, to the topic and to the theme of that particular social media thing. So whatever your organization is, you are responsible for maintaining a certain decorum. Think of social media as a room full of your colleagues and your students and your bosses and your patients and everybody who is in a room, in a meeting or a conference. Would you stand up and start saying things which are irrelevant? You'll be thrown out straight away. So think of social media as a part of real life. Okay, there is this term which is called IVL, and there's a term which is called IRL. IVL is in virtual life, IRL is in real life, and there is a lot of debate happening that is our virtual life different from our real life. You can pose yourself as whatever on a dating site or whatever, fine, it has its ethical side or whatnot, but not on an official side of a certain organization. So that is the second thing, that you have to be very careful when you are posting or when you are contributing to a certain organizational social media. The third thing important is your ethical and moral behavior as a person of responsibility in providing information, which basically means that you cannot on a social media or your personal homepage or within your WhatsApp discussion group take the name of a patient, or that particular person, name of that person from that town came and I scanned and I found this. Patient confidentiality is prime, whether in real life, whether on social media. You cannot disclose things which are by other laws you are prohibited to. Right? So you cannot identify patients by names. You cannot post pictures of patients. I've seen people having selfies with a patient lying in the background. And I'm like, really, it can come and bite you like anything. Most of the personal nature of litigation, there are two types of litigations in healthcare. One is the professional litigation, where you misdiagnosed or you harmed the patient in any way, or prescribed a wrong medicine, or did a wrong surgery, or whatever, from your professional capacity. And the other one is a litigation of personal ethical nature, in which maybe you've talked inappropriately to a person, or given wrong information to a person, or disclosed a person's identity, or discussed against their will, or posted their pictures, or whatever, which is a personal ethical sort of thing. So ethics, the rules that govern the ethics in real life or as a professional equally translate and apply in the virtual space, on the social media space. Okay, so keep that in mind as well. So this is basically the gist of what is happening in week 5. There are some very interesting papers there. I purposely did not have lectures, because these are not things that I can teach. They are more of a things to read and absorb. There are especially a good one is this Office of Australian Information Commissioner, Health Information and Medical Research Privacy Act. That takes you to the official site of OAIC. If you are not reading anything else, please read this one web page and keep visiting them, or keep interacting with them and asking them about things as well. Because that basically gives you a lot of information on health and medical research, disclosing genetic information, and all those kind of things. And there's a lot of privacy registers, there are legislations, everything that we are governed by under the Privacy Act of 1988 in Australia is on that page, and it is a Australian government page. So obviously we have to be sure that whatever is on there is the truth, and is something which is seriously taken. So that is one I would definitely want you to read. The other one is AIR guidelines, or the HIPAA, which is basically American, but the basic concepts are the same, which are on, which are ruled by almost universally everywhere. But Americans have put it into their system. I have not found any particular legislative thing from Australia. APRA has got a kind of paper on that, but it is again very general. AIR has got guidelines on professional conduct, but not particular to social media or particularly to our topic and what is needed. And I think if you would write something on this, I think it would be a huge thing. It would be a very good research and paper to write on the impact of social media on our professionalism and everything. Okay, anyway, if you want to ask anything at all, not just about the this week's content, but about your assessment item or generally about the course or anything. No? Okay, that's fantastic. Are you enjoying studying this unit? Are you learning something new?
Yeah, it's good. It's a good unit.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, well, that's good. That's good. And obviously, at the end, you will have that big red button with have your say. And apart from giving me 5 stars for everything, you can give your suggestions on how to improve the unit as well. This is the 4th time it is being it is offered. So first was 2016 term 1. So if you compare the 2016 term 1 to 2019 term 1, there's a big difference in the unit. Obviously, your feedback and everything is very important. Now, our next Zoom tutorial would be, now next is a vacation week. Vacation week doesn't mean that you take your snorkel and go to a tropical paradise island and then forget about everything in the world, although everybody wants to do that. Revise things, work on your assessment item. I would not load you with anything at all. And that 1 week is basically just to, sit back and look at the previous 5 weeks where you're coming from. Week 6 and week 7 would be communication with students and communication as a supervisor. So, Michael, hold off your assessment for at least a couple of weeks. I will open those weeks. I have a little bit of work to do on those ones. I have to make a couple of minor adjustments and have some new articles on there. And I will open them up probably early next week by Monday, or maybe after the weekend. I will open them up. Now, week 6 would be week 6 and week 7 has got Easter break in between, so it is kind of short, but then the topic is very interesting, communication with students. So that would be good. And then week 8, 9, and 10 would be report writing, which is the main theme of this unit. And you will then be able to do your other assessment item of portfolios after that. Okay, so if there's nothing else, we will call it a night, and I will see you on I think in 4 weeks time. Let me see.
I think it's
14th of May. No, 30th of April. So in 3 weeks. Is it?
Yep.
And 16 and yeah, in 3 weeks time on 30th of April. So enjoy your kind of vacation week and work on your assessment items, and I will see you in a while then.
All right. Thanks, Amir.
Thank you and good night.
Bye.
Amir, one more question. Is there any chance you could open up those weeks a bit earlier so I could read those things? Or have you not finished working on them yet, Amir?
Yeah, no, that's fine. I will open them up, but then I will keep on adding to them, right? I will open them right now so that you will have them, but they are not, they would change. I mean, change in a way that they will have some additions to it.
Yes.
But it's not that, okay, hold on. I have this wording here, which I will delete. Okay, and save changes. So it has to be formatted and it has to be cleaned up. So week 6 I have opened, and week 7 I have opened. Okay, so yeah, so these 2 weeks are open now, so you can access all the material there, the reading materials especially. So this will give you a lot of material for your assessment.
Yes, I had one more question, Amir. With the quality of my writing, what is that a good standard, a passable standard, a credit standard? Like, how am I tracking in terms of performance?
Look, it is a very, academic writing is in itself a huge specialty. People do PhDs in academic writing, right? And academic writing is very different from your clinical writing. When you are writing something on, you have to be very selective in your language. And it's a completely different language that you use compared to a normal language. Most of the assessment items that I come across, and you read them and you're like, okay, well, not really, are written in good common English. Okay, I'm not talking about bad common English, because there are lots of people who write shorthand and grammatical mistakes. But even if your grammar and spellings and everything is immaculate, a common language and an academic language are different. And you only learn that by writing and reading a lot of stuff. That is why, research and publications is an evolution. You get your first paper maybe rewritten and revised 10 times. Your 50th paper, maybe you nail it, send it to a journal, and they publish it straight away without any thing. So if you have not written in a professional academic environment before, it will be a bit difficult for you to understand why your perfectly fantastic paper only got a pass. Okay, so I cannot really comment on how it is, or I cannot teach you to how to write it. But there are lots and lots and lots of help available. And a very good help is this university help. On the left-hand side, if you look in your Moodle site, there is this link to Studiosity, free after-hour study help. Okay. Now this Studiosity basically takes you to a university help site where you can submit your assessment or whatever you've written and get comments on it from an academic point of view. Okay, so that is a very good, and I would strongly recommend that content is definitely important, and 99% of the time, content is important, what you're writing, because it's science. But how you write it is equally important as well. So these Studiosity people would tell you how to write and how to express. And if one sentence is written in a certain way, it can be written in a different way, which gives an entirely different kind of theme or a meaning sometimes to what fact you are writing in your article. What I've read so far is pretty good, I would say. Okay, I wouldn't say if it is pass or credit or distinction or high distinction, because for that when you'll get your feedback, you will understand what I mean. I go through each and every full stop and comma and
Yes.
each and every word of it, and then comment on the language as well as the content what you're presenting. So
I guess the challenge is I could write that piece of work 10 different times,
exactly.
and I still wouldn't know which of those 10 is better than the others.
Exactly. And all 10 of them would be different from each other.
Yes.
Better or not is very different, because academically they would be different, professionally they would be different. If you are presenting the same thing to a group of sonographers or a chiropractors or a paramedics or a podiatrist, for example, ultrasound of the Achilles tendon, very common thing. If you are written a paper and give it to an academic as an assessment, he would look at it from a very different way than if you give it to be published in a sonography journal, and the podiatrist will look at it in a very, very different way. Okay, same information, same paper, same language, exactly the same thing, right? So, and podiatrists may think that that I don't really have much information out of it. I'm not really, it's not interesting for me. Sonographer may say, wow, this is really, really very interesting, and I have been looking for this information all over, and then Michael is such a fantastic person. And an academic may look at it and say, oh, well, there is no academic rigor in it, and then there is a tense problem, and there is a problem between this paragraph and the running to the next paragraph. And so everybody looks at things from a very different angle. And you will improve it by reading a lot of papers and writing a lot of papers. There is no shortcut to that. And I mean, we can learn, but I cannot teach you that. So it's and basically what I do in my teaching is give you a lot of information and let you process all that information and internalize it yourself, rather than me giving an opinion, because if I give you an opinion, that would be my personal opinion on a certain thing. Okay, so that is in fact why we are asking you to do a lot of research when you're writing these assessment items, so that you read. And when you read, you automatically start to assimilate good papers and bad papers and what you like and what you don't like and how to write them. Okay, so don't be disheartened if you get a pass and you're like, that was an HD work. Or you get an HD and you say, wow, I did it. Okay.
Sure. Thanks, Amir.
Okay, no worries. Okay, take care, Michael.
Bye-bye.
See you in 3 weeks.